I apologize. I could have deleted, but we're going to do part two. I don't know if YouTube glitched or the internet glitched, but it just dropped and reconnected. It does that from time to time. It makes me wonder if there isn't something spiritual going on. But let's go back to this because this is one I saw yesterday. It looks like a redhead. And she is touting how wonderful the Democratic Party is, and her channel blasts Pam Bondi and blasts Trump and blasts Doge, and she's saying that there's Democrat Christians that are far superior than all the MAGA people. I had my little discussion about her channel last night. I will not be watching it. It's crap, and more crap, so we don't want to promote that. But I want to go to this because after living overseas, I have seen manufactured factory looks. I'm not going to call it beauty because it isn't. If you married that woman, chances of you having a boring, fruitless relationship are extremely high. She has the mentality of a middle school girl. That's a fact. And I see this with American women. I see the need to dye and change their hair color. That's the same woman. That's Megyn Kelly. That's the same woman. How do you go from this to that? Obviously, she spent big money in being doctored up. Women that dye their hair blonde never, ever work on this. That's an observation that is consistent with my 60 years of age. You go over to Sky News Australia, look at the difference. Black hair, matching eyebrows. Now that's a pretty lady. She looks natural. I happen to like her anyway. She's got good political commentary. She's got a good disposition. And I don't know why the American news standard is fake dyed blonde hair, ugly clothing, anything but natural, covered in Bondo, covered in pancake makeup. And that's what we have in our society. And you go down the parade of the who's who. And this is this lady from Sky News Australia again. Now, I'm going to be honest. I've always preferred raven-haired women. Long hair moves to the front of the line. Black hair moves to the front of the line. When I went to Hong Kong the first time and I saw a sea of jet black hair, I was in heaven. I think women with beautiful black hair are something else. I love it when they don't dye their hair. I love it when they leave it alone. I love it when they don't chop it off and lob it off and put gel in it and have it look, just not my thing. And this is what's become synonymous. Now, she has black hair, but these are our broadcasters today. That's not attractive. And that's not an opinion. She is not an expert in anything. She should have stuck to her day job in Sister Act because America loved her in that. But as a journalist, that woman is an epic fail. An epic fail. That's the face of journalism. And I would much rather listen to this one any day. Not only is she entertaining, but she's educational. And she tells the truth. And this is something that the Democrat left is incapable of doing. I had several Democrat cheerleaders come onto my channel last night, as well as flat earthers. And it was rather robust in chat last night. One lady that came on is an atheist. And I'm thinking, my gosh, who opened the doors and let them all in? But that's okay, because Christians need to engage the culture. We got to. And watch, when I give my opinion, oh, you're a Christian, you're not supposed to judge. Go ahead and read Matthew 7 one more time and tell me what it says. And then read the rest of the Bible. Okay? I do have a God-given right to judge. You as an unbeliever do not. That's what Matthew 7 is talking about. You might want to dig deeper into that. If you are not a Christian, you have no right to judge by God's standard because you think that you are the judge of what is Christ and what is not when you don't even know him. Read it. For the measure you use will be measured against you. First take the beam out of your eye, then you will see clearly to remove the one from the speck from your brothers. You have to get context, but let's move on. And I'm going to judge because our society, these women I'm talking about are really judging. And nobody says anything about that. I want you to see this beautiful, fabulous looking lady here. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? That looks very similar to my ex-wife. I'm not kidding. She chopped off her hair and she does her hair sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh. That's Rachel Maddow, probably one of the ugliest journalists on air today. She's not attractive in any way. And I want to make very clear that not everything should be based on attraction. However, when I see the hatred for conservatives, white men, and I see what they've done, that allows me to critique them. It allows me to hold them accountable and to say, Rachel, as a man, I'm better looking than you. At 60, with clothes or without clothes. But Rachel has an ugly heart. Very, very, very ugly heart. And here she is again. That is not a lady. She's female. She's about as sexy as Ann B. Davis on the Brady Bunch. Or Ellen DeGeneres. You notice those hardcore lesbians all kind of have that same, have you noticed that? They have that same affect. Why is that? We should talk about that. Why are guys that, when you begin to see that they're gay, talk like this? Where's all that come from? You know, and we talk about this, and people have asked me, Mike, do you think any of this is demonic? Yeah, I do. Now, I've talked openly about same-sex struggles that people have some bi-curious. I am in no way trans or homophobic. I've been very honest about my own struggles. But yes, I'm going to say that a lot of the sins are very much demonically orchestrated. People make their own choices, but the LGBT lifestyle is very much fueled by Satan. And I will go on record saying that. Anything that can twist or pervert the word of God is not of God. Now, I talk real here, and I talk real talk, and I've talked about my own struggles, and I have been very fair to LGBT. I have admitted to, as a grown man, you know, when you see adult photos of two women in bikinis, French kissing and being erotic with each other, it's hot. You know, the Bible talks about the mystery of lawlessness. And I really need to take time to do a study on that, because the power that sin has over us is not something we can ignore. Sin is extremely powerful. It's pleasing, and everybody has a different flavor of what they like. Just like people go to Baskin Robbins and 31 flavors, or they go to Starbucks and they got all those choices for coffee. Everybody has their choice of sin and vice. What rocks you may not rock me, and vice versa. The Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But what we're talking about behind me, Rachel Maddow is not of God. She is of Satan, and I would say it to her face. She's not born again. She's not a Christian. And this woman has posited herself to be in an environment where she feels qualified to judge an entire species of humanity that happens to be conservative. So therefore, I'm going to talk about these people. I put myself on YouTube, so I'm open for critique. Let me rephrase that. I may not be open for it, and I'm critiqued all the time. And depending on who it is, I will face that full and frontal and talk about it. But when you have public figures like Rachel Maddow, I have no respect for her. She's nasty. She's mean, and she's not pretty. And, I don't like her values. But let's move on. Let's look at this couple. Okay, that's somebody's wife. Fake dyed blonde hair. Lots of foundation makeup. The eyebrows do not match the hair color. And that's what you would expect with this clown. The gelled hair with the blonde highlights in it as a man makes you wonder what's going on here. You look like her. And I'm sorry, when I look at Joel Osteen's wife, she reminds me of Tammy Faye Baker and that whole cheap, southern, gaudy, fake Christian movement. Wow, they got their hands deeply, deeply in the cookie jar. And you'll have to apologize. I do have a cold, so. And it's funny, you start taking a parade of the who's who. That's Gavin Newsom. Not a lot of difference between him and Joel Osteen in the face, and got the gelled, and, we got white bleeding through that hair. We're going to put the gel in there like we're in our 20s. First off, this guy's not hip to be squared. So what's the point? And I can say that because I'm natural. No tats, no piercings, no dye. I've been criticized my whole life, and turnabout is fair play. I'd love to put myself up against all those bullies in school. I'd like to do a lineup. And I'd like to see who turned out in the shape and the looks that I am in at 60. I'd love to take all those cheerleaders and all those smart alecky, rude, stuck-up girls and guys that were now of age, if they're even all still alive. And let's do a side-by-side comparison. You see, when a child lives in criticism and bullying, some of them fall in on themselves. They pull away from society and become weird and creepy. But God prepared me to boldly confront, to expose. And I expose myself, not just society. I put myself out there because I believe in honesty at all costs. This guy here is screwing the state of California, and he's getting richer doing it. The guy's an idiot. He's banned the sale of automobiles that are gas-powered effective 2035. The guy's a tyrant, as are most of the left. It just blows my mind. This is another clown. Anybody know who that is? That's good old Justin Trudeau. You notice that Osteen, Gavin, and Rachel Maddow, they all have that look. Mentally make a note of that. They just all have that look. The world system, my friend. Look at this. That's Justin and his wife. Fake blonde highlights. Now, in fairness, that's a good side profile picture of Justin. But I look at her, and I look at most Western women today that insist on dyeing their hair blonde. And some idiot come on my channel the other day because I was wearing feminine clothes and said, this coming from a guy who makes fun of women who dye their hair. I'm not making fun of them. I'm stating a fact. We have had a term in the U.S. called trailer trash. And I'm going to be very honest, and I may end up stepping on the feet of some of my subs and fans. Again, this is only my opinion, and I don't have hatred in my heart. Women that have dark hair and they dye it blonde, it's not right. It does not enhance your looks. It does not make you look better at all. That's a myth. You're deluded. And yet simps and men go after that. So I have a right to my opinion. Why shouldn't I? I've been judged because I have thick glasses. I've been judged growing up as a kid. Carrot top, red hair. Oh my gosh, I was made fun of. I got news for you. Most of the women can't make it to 60. Most of the men can't make it to 60 and keep their natural hair color as long as I have. So you darn right I'm going to say something about it. And these women, I've experienced all my life the beatitudes, the contempt, the sneering, and the scorn from American women my whole life. Laughed at and mocked at to even think that I could get a date with them. This is a woman I've never respected. She is liberal to the core. I believe she's dead now. But that whole ensemble. I mean, her hair looks like a mess. It's chopped off. Nothing screams butch louder than that. She was married. That's Cokie Roberts. I used to see her op-ed pieces in the Denver Post, and they were horrible. She's a flaming liberal, and she has a book called A Life Well Lived. Democrats do live a well life because they screw the pooch, and they rolling in the money and they promote socialism. I took on a couple of women that came in the room that were extolling Bernie Sanders and socialism. Democrat women that are steeply entrenched in false viewpoints are not to be desired as girlfriends or wives on any level. I don't respect Cokie. And if you look at the Democrats and you look at these kind of women today, they don't respect us either. They hate us. They have a hatred for us. And that's disturbing to me. Cokie Roberts was a liberal. Her op-ed sucked. I'm like, man, they pay her for this? They pay to listen to Bill Clinton? Now I want to parade a couple of women. One of them was a Democrat. But I want to parade a woman who is the epitome of poise, grace, and natural beauty. That is a beautiful woman. Her hair matches her eyebrows. She's got a necklace on. She looks beautiful. She has poise and grace and looks and carries herself like a lady. I will be honest, if I saw a woman like that today that had an interest in me, that made my heart beat like so hard. Jackie Kennedy was a beautiful dame. Compare her with all those fake dyed blonde hair women, and you tell me. I think it's atrocious where we've come in America. And these women that dye their hair blonde got an attitude. I've got them in the church I go to. They're not nice. They're not warm. They're not sweet. They're not loving. They're stuck up. They're full of themselves. There is a mentality that goes with hair and dyeing and styles, and I've seen it. And I've spent 60 years of my life studying people. My uncle told me to my face, "You are a student of people." When I lived in Hong Kong, I paid very careful attention to Chinese culture. When I spent time with Filipinos, I paid very careful attention to that. And I love Asia because they're almost, in fact, all the Asian women are black haired. And it's beautiful. Nothing arouses me more than seeing a woman with jet black hair. Blondes do not have more fun. I've dated a couple of close to be blondes, dishwater blondes. I have always been attracted to dark-haired women. Now, Jackie didn't have the long hair, but she was beautiful. She carried herself incredibly well. And I'm going to talk about another woman that many people will have their druthers about. Cher. The hair matches the eyebrows. Why is that so hard for women? If you're going to dye your hair blonde, why don't you dye your eyebrows? I mean, come on. Nothing looks cheap. Nothing looks Clairol and thrown together and like putting wallpaper on a textured wall without smoothing the wall down is basically what you're doing. Putting lipstick on a pig, putting barn paint on a barn that the wood's rotting and the barn's sagging is not going to make it better. And I'm sorry. These are the kind of women that have judged me and laughed at me and mocked me my whole life. This woman here, she was beautiful for the longest time. I'm not talking about her lifestyle, but Cher was a 10. When she did that song, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, she was stunning. Absolutely stunning. She was an incredibly beautiful woman, non-manufactured. And I say this because, and I'm going to get myself in a deep pile of dog mess here, most of the women that I've chatted with today and talked to are part of that dye their hair culture, among many other things that are off-putting. And I realize that the truth is glaring to me. I cannot fall in love with that or marry that because it'll be another fail. And that also goes for African American women in the U.S. that get the weaves and the extensions. There's a attitude that goes with that. Black women that I have found that I'm drawn to are the ones that let their hair be natural. It's just a fact. I go back and I look at pictures of African women in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when they actually grew their hair and it was soft and they didn't do all that stuff. They were different. They were different. Manufactured beauty just underscores that you are not genuine, that you're not real, that you're not honest, that you're not vulnerable. body language is loud and clear with what you do with your hair. My observation. And I don't care what people think of me. I'm beyond it. This is another clown. She's worth millions of dollars, and she has become synonymous with how many Christian women look like this. No depth, no soul, and she markets herself with books like It's Not About You. What's this? Eyebrows don't match the hair, but this is frosted hair. I mean, the whole look is ugly. The earrings, the clothing, the thing up the neck reminds me of something my ex would wear. Not attractive, not desirable. And she's a false teacher that's, yeah. No thanks. You see so much of that. So much of that. So off-putting. This is Paula White. She's got more Bondo on her face than I had on my 62 Chevrolet pickup, and it had a lot of Bondo on it. Again, the eyebrows don't match the hair. The pancake makeup is telling. The outfit she's wearing is ghastly. And she preaches a false gospel and is worth millions of dollars and is Trump's pastor. That's disturbing. She's another one of those clown TV preachers rolling in the money. Nothing even remotely biblical about her. Nothing. This is her again. That flip up in the back looks like Florence Henderson. Looks like she walked right off the Brady Bunch set. Lots of pancake. The color purple in that power suit does not do her any justice. Then you go over to India. Oh my. Look at the difference. The clothing, the black hair, the jewelry, the face, the skin. Wow. And people get mad at me when I say that I prefer exotic women. They get angry at me. They really put me down for that. I lived overseas and I've seen India women. I've seen Chinese women and Japanese women, and it's stunning. They don't spend 3 hours in the bathroom doing absolutely nothing, coming out looking worse than when they went in there. I'm sorry. As an American man, I have choices. And because I experienced another culture, I think the women overseas, I think women in Africa are more beautiful than most African American women. I think Caucasian women in, say, Poland, Hungary, and the Baltic countries are prettier naturally than they are here. I think that Russian and Ukrainian women are stunning. However, this had better be questioned. They're also the biggest scammers on the attracting and going after American men and roto-rooting their finances right out of their life. I tell people, do not get involved with Russian and Ukraine women. Do not. And I grew up in America. I'm a flag-waving patriot. But I grew up, and when you go to the checkout aisle, it's shoved in my face all my life. Cosmopolitan. People. Us. The National Enquirer. Elle. Vanity Fair. And what's on the cover? Fake manufactured white women. Goo-gobbed in makeup. And it was shocking to me when I went to Hong Kong. The first thing I noticed is I didn't see any of that, except when I went up to mid-levels. Ooh, I'm going to get in trouble on this one. A lot of down under lived up in mid-levels. Australian expats. Women were 6 feet tall, well endowed in the chest. They'd walk down through Hong Kong showing their chest. They loved to dress very provocative. They were very loud. They all had, every one of them had the fake dyed blonde hair. And they would talk loud like my aunt used to do in Southern California. I was on a tram. It was crowded. I had no place to sit. I'm holding on to a bar and I'm listening to two Aussie women, fake dyed hair, 6 feet tall. Oh God, oh my God, Australia's way better than Hong Kong. And just going on as loud as they could. And I'm like, I came that close. And then they were criticizing Minnesota where I lived. I'm like, wow, these girls have been around. Oh, and Minnesota has these stupid blue laws. You can't buy any alcohol on Sunday. And I almost turned around and said, you know, I'm glad that they have a day you can't go buy beer. Because I listen to you two, and maybe you ought to lay off of it. Be arches. I had a problem when I lived in Hong Kong with the Aussie women. I didn't seek them out. I didn't go there to be around them. Oh my gosh. Stay with me, people. I'm walking down this busy street and I saw this Aussie woman walking up, you know, brick street, cobblestone, whatever, steep hill, crowds of people, and she's not paying attention. She's texting. She's walking diagonal up, and I move all the way over to the building. I thought she's going to walk into me, and I moved, and she collided with my shoulder. And this woman had the nerve to say, "Oi, watch the F where you're going." I turned around and said, "Excuse me, biatch. You walked right into me. Look at your trajectory, man. I'm all the way over here. Pay attention, you dang Aussie loser." Oh, I went off. She just looked at me like, oh my gosh. I said, "You people suck." And I walked off. I'd had enough. I've been bullied by Western women all my life, put down, made fun of. Hey, ladies, let me tell you something. When you're dyeing your hair a different color than it is, something's wrong. It doesn't enhance you. It doesn't do justice for you. You talk about God, you know, Paula White and Beth Moore. Well, if God's so real in your life, why don't you be real? Oh my gosh, all this makeup, all this glop, because you don't got it working for you. I don't care what women like that think of me. It's trash can culture today. Go back to the 20s. Look at Hepburn. Look at Greta Garbo. Look at the women in the 20s. They were gorgeous. 20s and 30s, these actresses were amazingly beautiful. Look at them today. They fell out of a makeup bag. I tell you what, Bollywood is big in India. Have you seen the women in Bollywood? Woo! They're tens. They're not getting implants. They're not getting Botox, detox, and whatever else American women do, and they're not covered and bathed in makeup. I find watching India videos to be very pleasing. And the music is cool too. And their expression is genuine and real, and they dance and they move. And I have more women, twat women in America come on my channel. Somebody in Ancitas got on my channel and said, "You are a fool," because I was dancing in my room. I'm a fool, huh? Is that because you're dead and you have no passion and you see somebody dancing and enjoying themselves and you're miserable? Most of the women that dye their hair blonde are miserable. It shows. You're not happy with yourself. So let's put more lipstick on the piggy. I don't care what these people think of me. You're a Christian. You're saying, I'm a Christian and I'm saying these things. Yes, because God has liberated me to finally come out and talk about it. Have you listened to what they say about us guys? Oh, man, pay attention. Pay attention. There are some neurotic deficiencies that have come as a result of us men growing up in a culture that's being jammed and rammed in our face. The frog in the kettle is true. We don't have access to women like that, not unless you go overseas. So we've dumbed ourselves down to accept the tats, the piercings, the fake dyed hair to get a date. And all you get is a box full of many, many problems. There's videos talking about it. There's videos talking about women with the septum ring and how awful they are. There's videos talking about all the women covered in tattoos and why you should not date them. I'll go further. The obsession with dogs and cats and pets to be avoided. The obsession with women in SUVs and Starbucks to be avoided. The women that love their Subarus and golden retrievers, and that's all they talk about, Land's End and LL Bean, to be avoided. Women that go on and on about Starbucks, that right there tells me everything I need to know. People have accused me, oh, he's just bitter because he can't get a date. Are you serious? I could go park my white butt in Manila and within a week have a beautiful woman come up to me. How long are you staying? Can I be your girlfriend? No, not my HO, my girlfriend. Simple. I could go to the country. I could go to the barangay or the province. But in America, to get a date with a makeup job and the fake dyed blonde hair, oh, I'm not worthy of them. I don't make enough money for them. And once again, guess who I'm talking to? Personally. Now, I talk to some American women here that I have respect for. But I talk to women overseas, and there's a difference. A big, giant one. Intellectually, one of the people on my channel that I'm speaking to from the UK has a depth of soul that I don't see in most of the Western gals. And I love that song. West End Girls. And I can and I will make generalizations. I have a right to, especially if they're based in the truth. And I have seen, when I was in Spokane and I worked at Durham School Services, bus driver women generally are not la creme. Anyway, there's a bossy butt syndrome that comes with many women that are in the bus driving position. They think that they're so perfect with kids and got control of everything. And no, you don't. Kids either control themselves or they don't. I learned that. And I carried myself in such a way that most of my routes, until I moved out here, and this culture is off the rails, I had control of my buses, not because I had control, but the way I carried myself and the way I interacted with my kids and the way I drove my bus, I had a lot less problems. Today here in Richmond County, you got single parents, mostly moms, that don't have the emotional or intellectual maturation to deserve to raise children. Coupled with the media, coupled with a school district, coupled with a party that's informed and educated them that we are the problem. White boy. So when I get behind the wheel of a bus, I'm not dealing with a bunch of innocent, pliable children. Out here, I'm dealing with kids that have been brainwashed, miseducated by a school system and a mentality that whites are bad, revisionist history. Yeah, that's going to be problematic. Absolutely. Because I shut down Facebook, I, for years, was in contact with, her real name is Makuka, but she goes by her English name of Mabel. She's a school teacher in Zambia. She works for the Department of Agriculture, the Ministry of Agriculture, which is what the teachers are under. She has a farm, but she's a school teacher and she does very well. And she had told me that she wanted me to come out there and marry her and she could visa me. And I'm like, you can't visa an American. Michael, yes, I can. As an African woman, her two kids were extremely respectful. I had talked to all of them on, the Facebook Messenger and stuff. She had a beautiful stone home built for her, beautiful furnishings. She knew 3 languages. A far cry from Richmond County black girls. A far cry. I mean, a cut above. People don't like it when I say that. But let me tell you something I've observed in my 60 years. African Americans don't like African girls at all. Very hostile to them. And that's been communicated to me by women from other African nations that have moved here. I had a summer where I drove for an international school in Colorado. I had to take many trips up to Estes Park and into the mountains with their old bus. And I had a black woman get on there one day. She was from Nigeria. She was a deeply devoted Christian woman. My conversation with her was one of the best I had had with any women in any length of time. And in her thick accent, she says, Michael, I noticed when I moved here that the African American culture is very hostile to me. I said, really? She goes, yeah, they make fun of me. And I said, that's funny because they constantly want to talk about how they're African American. I said, they have absolutely nothing in common with African culture at all. Nothing. Zero. Oh, they wear the African shirt. But African American culture, to me, is a subculture. And what I mean by that is it's a spin-off of victim mentality and everybody's against us and that cyclical drama that always comes up. If you notice, when things calm down in the US, when things seem to be going okay, there's something that happens in the news. The news gets out the bellows and goes like this over some clown not doing what they're supposed to do. And they turn it into a circus. And then the riots break out and people are walking off with TV sets. I find it interesting that this culture, for all that they talk about, every time they don't get their way, well, the stores lose television sets. There are African women I've talked to online that are stunning. They know 3 languages. Our culture in America is detrimental to marriage. Our culture in America is detrimental to longevity in friendships and marriages. It's a TV dinner throwaway culture. Look at the internet. Look at all the clowns that come on here just trolling. They learn when they're kids, unattended in their bedroom. I have to excuse myself. I will be back, but I need to make a contribution to my porcelain account before my bladder explodes. As we grow and move out into our world, you begin to see yourself. And I've never thought I was perfect. I still don't. Sometimes I see myself as a failure. I'm 60 years old and I still work hard. And, I didn't go to college. I didn't get a degree. I didn't learn how to pull down good money. But God has provided for me. And I thank Him for that. And, I caught yellow fever. And I chased it around for years in Hong Kong. But you tell me, beauty for beauty. You want this? You want this for a wife? Or do you want this for a wife? Or do you want this? How about this one? Wouldn't that be a peach to be married to? How about that? Isn't that just a bag of fun? You're not going to get passion with that. You're not going to have good lovemaking with that. I promise you. women that live their life in hair dye and makeup bags and spending hours in the bathroom doing all this, my perspective, it's not helping you at all. It's like taking a house where the roof is swayed like a swayed back horse. You know, you take all the siding and you put new siding, but the whole house, the frame is bent. And women did this to themselves. They try to be good looking. And most of those kind of women never ever work on this. Women will go to the gym, they'll get their pacemeters, they're doing their cardiovascular. These aren't nice, sweet ladies. And they got to go to the gym because if they stop, Goodyear's coming through, advertising the Super Bowl. I don't want to be involved with a woman that's got to work that hard to be pretty. And I can say that because you had this one here. You had this one. You didn't see her going to the gym. You didn't see out there with her little meter on. 1960s, when women used to look like that. People say, oh, you're old school. Get with the times. I don't want to. I wish I could go back in time and date a woman that looked like that versus this. Wow. That, I'm sorry. That's bad. That's bad. And then coupled with their beliefs, their wrong beliefs, their wrong-headed thinking. I'm trying to learn to have the love of Christ. And it's hard. There's people I don't love. And why is there so much of this? Why? Why is there so much of this? No, that's not my boyfriend. No, we don't have a hookup. He's almost 70. He's married. He wants to attract men. And people get on my channel and they see that picture and, oh my gosh, it's 2KWEENS. No, I'm not a queen. Check your spelling. I embrace people. And I try to reach across the aisle to people. And I try to understand where they're coming from. The sad thing in America is I'd have a better chance at getting a date with a crossdresser or a gay man than I would with this. I couldn't even get a date with that if I even wanted it. That's not even a natural beauty. They don't know how to dress. They don't know how to choose fashion, and they don't know how to take care of their damn hair. And I don't date dudes. And what I'm about to say is we have a society that is grossly unaware of the psychological ramifications of a culture of women that are doing this to us. It's a mind F to be vulgar. It messes with you. makes you doubt yourself, makes you think there's something wrong with you, you start thinking, well, maybe I should just be gay. Maybe I should just do that. Women do not realize that they have a huge impact on us, both good and bad. And when you see women today embracing feminism, fierce independence, I did a video that got 20, 30,000 views back in the day in Hong Kong. It's still on the internet. Western women are destroying themselves, and I talk about this. I had men from all over the country saying, oh my gosh, women did not watch my channel back then. One, because they cannot handle that kind of truth. The women that are coming to my channel now, they're different clientele. They're women that are drawn to real. That's rare, by the way. So to you women that encourage me and come here and can listen to me and not get butthurt and run off, I appreciate you. I do. I've had to listen to things I don't want to hear that were true. People think, oh, you hate women, you bash on women. I bash on everybody, including myself, so get over yourself. Megyn Kelly has a forum that I don't have. And I would not use my forum as a man to compare myself to another man at an inauguration. You need to go back and watch that. Megyn Kelly is using her salary, her spot at Fox to criticize Bezos' wife, who, by the way, I should have taken a screenshot of the internet of her. She is way better looking than Megyn. Dark hair, eyebrows and hair match. You know, women talk about color coordinated. They don't seem to get it straight with themselves, do they? And I'm going to criticize that because these are the same women that got this. You're running around in your panties, ladies, and you can't see it. So this is an American's observation. You're failing. When you dye your hair like that, I think of trailer trash. I think of Tanya Harding, not Nancy Kerrigan, not Dorothy Hamilton. I think of Tanya Harding. Why? Scuzzy, trashy, manufactured, fake. Why do you think more men, and there's a Filipina online now. She did a video the other day. I don't subscribe to her. And she's sitting there saying how important it is for BLOWJOBS. I have to put it that way because YouTube censors talk. Like, wow, that's a necessary video, right? And that's what our society's reduced to. Can I be honest? Can I be honest? When I look at Megyn Kelly there, I can't make love with that. She might arouse me if she get down on her knees. And I'm not being gross. But women are reducing themselves to that. I would never allow or make this woman. Now, she was married. She's dead and gone. Okay, whatever. But a woman like that, I'd make love to her. I'd look her in the eyes. I'm making love to her. You look at Kamala Harris. I didn't download any pictures of her. She wasn't bad looking years ago. being fair, aside from her political BS and playing the black card when she was 50% India, when I look at her, I'm going to be brutally honest. On a BJ level, she could please me. That's it. I wouldn't make love with her. When I look at her, that's what she embodies. And she did that with Mr. Brown. That's the only reason she's in. How did a woman like her pass law school? I think 6 years, you got to be in college, university for law school or longer. How did she pass? She can't even form a coherent non-word salad sentence. Gone is the innocence in all of us. Ladies today aren't ladies. They sling profanity around worse than a sailor. I talk about Roma Army. I don't know her. I'm not trying to grow my channel by criticizing her. But women like that have and will judge me for wearing feminine clothing, whatever. Have you looked at her neck? She has no forearm. And she's got tons of simp males that are attracted to that. She's not a lady. She's not feminine. Most women today are not feminine and ladylike. They're crusted over wannabe dudes. And guys love that kind of girl. I remember as a kid, now I'm going to get in trouble for this, but oh well, when Joan Jett came out, I couldn't stand Joan Jett. I love rock and roll. She was too edgy. My sister liked her. I said, Joan Jett sucks. I remember when Roseanne came out. I remember the 90s were marked with a decided turn in the direction of our culture. South Park, Beavis and Butthead, all that. The sarcastic, the belittling, the put down culture. And it's gotten so bad that where do men go now? How do you get a date today? You got to be rich, GQ, have the right car, the right house. Of course, then there's that other group of people, the ones that buy the alcohol and the weed. There was a guy by the name of George McNulty that worked for Voyager Bus years ago. One of the ugliest males I've ever seen. He would be like Esau, red and hairy. Curly red chest hairs and, white skin. And he was not GQ. And if you look at him now, he's balding. And he's got the kind of wife I just talked about. The fake, whatever. Probably thinks she's all that on a stick. And George would sit there. I loved driving a bus. I liked driving a bus. I was simple. And he mocked me and made fun of me constantly. I didn't have the guts back then. You don't want to know what I'd say if I saw him today. It wouldn't be Christ-like. I don't know why it's taken me so long to become so bold. I wish I'd stood up back then and said, you know what, George? You're a legend in your own mind, and you're a loser. He had a green 1920s house up in the Chester Park neighborhood of Duluth. He went to UMD. But he was driving a school bus, just like us. sit there with his legs crossed and have the Duluth News Tribune, and he'd sit there. He was from Vermont, and I used to joke with one of my good friends over there at the bus company, and I said, look at this, look at Mr. Vermont over there. And he would go across the street on a Friday night with, you know, a near 50-year-old woman who would say that she loves her husband. She's hanging around with 20-year-old bus drivers tying one on after work. There was a lot of that. There was a woman named Shar. Black hair, she was good looking. And she had gotten involved with one of our dispatchers. His girlfriend got cancer, and he started fooling around with her. She was a district driver, whereas ours was a contract bus company. Some years went by, and I'm sitting in my bus at Hermantown High School, had a basketball team there. It was night, and I saw in my mirror, I saw a bus pull up. And I could tell, I'm like, oh, that's an ISD bus. ISD didn't talk to us. They didn't like us. You know, they were union, we were not. You know, all that crap. And I'm sitting there with my little driver light on, and I see somebody come to my door, and I open it, and it's her, Shar. I said, hey, how are you? She goes, how long are you going to be here? I said, do you need me to move? I'll move. Because I thought she needed to unload or whatever. And she goes, no. How long are you going to be here? I said, well, my group's already been here, so I don't know how long. I said that game could end at any time. And she shocked me. I was going to ask you if you want to go for coffee or something. And I'm like, Shar? The Shar. She was impeccable. She was beautiful. But I noticed something. When I had met her the first time, now she's aging. Now gravity's taking over. Now she's hitting on me. And so the cycle goes. Now women who were too good for me years ago are looking at me when their bodies went south and everything else went south. And if you think I don't pay attention to things, I do. It's like, well, now you're not desirable, and now you want to get close to me. Really? The only problem is I have the same sex drive and the same outlook that I did in my, well, not the same outlook, the same. And you're not what you were back then, and you thought you were too good for me then, and now you want me because the men aren't chasing after you like they used to, huh? Now you see I own a home and I have a job and I have stability, and now all of a sudden you want to get cozy and naked with me. No thanks. And people think because I talk about these things that if somebody dyes their hair blonde or they got tattoos or piercings, that I'm going to hate them. Not at all. There's some women that have all that going on, and I still thought they were okay looking. There's subscribers to my channel and women on my channel that call their dogs fur babies. They know I'm not a fan of that. But they allow me to have my view. And I thank them for that. I'm not one of you says, if you like your dog more than people, get off of my channel. Why would I do that? Opinions are like butts. Everybody has one. And most of the time they stink. But I like to think that my opinions are based in fact. I try to base my opinions in fact. Because as a Christian, you can have your opinions, but I want to make sure my opinions are consistent with fact. And if I don't know the facts on something, I will say, this is my view. differentiating it, saying, I don't know what the scripture says about this, but this is my view. You got some people that carry themselves like everything they say is gospel. I don't. I have been wrong on some things. I have never been wrong believing that the earth is round. So let's clear that up right now. I have never been wrong in saying I will never get behind the Democratic Party. I have never been wrong by saying the Word of God is true. Not the Book of Mormon, not Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. When I was in Duluth, out of all the places I lived in America, Duluth, Minnesota had some of the prettiest white women I've ever seen in my life. A lot of them had beautiful long hair. They were beautiful. And it didn't take me long to learn up there. There was an uppityness. But times have changed. In the 90s, I rode the bus to go to work. I rode the bus to do my errands. Why should I feel ashamed? Do you know how much money I saved by not having a vehicle then? The salt destroys things. Then there's parking issues. Then there's insurance and maintenance. The bus worked for me back then. I still managed to find dates. I met another gal on the bus. She worked at Sears. She lived at the YWCA. And God used me to reach her for Christ. I have no idea how she's doing. We lost touch. Forgive me. Blow my nose. It's just... everybody's getting sick all around me, and I've avoided it this long, and now finally... the almost spring cold is set in. The 90s, there was still hope and a sparkle. The music was still good. Today, society is acting out. And I think that there's a gross inability for women in Western culture to say the following words: I was wrong. It hurts my heart to know that JFK cheated on that woman behind me. Why? That woman is way better looking than Marilyn Monroe, in my opinion. She's petite. She's gorgeous. What was he thinking? And they say when you have an affair, you always step down. He did. Marilyn Monroe is overrated. And just a reminder, her life was no cakewalk. Addicted to drugs and God knows what else. Elvis Presley, everybody got hooked on that guy. The Beatles denied Christ. They even said we're more popular than Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, that broad road is popular too, but it goes where? It's the express route to hell, Beatles. And I grew up in our culture. And our culture has more influence than the Word of God does. And women today have all followed I don't know what over the cliff. Christian women included. You want to talk about Jesus, you want to talk about God, and you're dyeing your hair, which means you can't accept the hair color that God gave you. Why? Do you expect me to think that you've got anything to offer me? My house is not for everybody, and I like the way it is. It ain't no designer house. It's not a Better Homes and Gardens house. It's a Michael house. I have depth of soul, and I've noticed a lot of people lack that because of the things I've done and some of the sins that I've delved into in my past. Even in that, it's a teaching moment. I could not fall in love with a man. I don't want a man squirting his stuff all over my chest or all over me. That's gross. And once men get that off, that's it. Their whole passion is wrapped up in that orgasm. Not me. I'm passionate with a woman, but I'm passionate beyond the sex. And it's sad because I believed years ago I'd find a soulmate. I don't believe in that anymore. I believe it's best just to make friends with women, get to know that, and see if anything lasts. And I'm not even talking romantically inclined. People get offended at what I say. But look at the anchors at the news desks. Go turn on your TV set, any town in America, and look at your news people. The guys are cookie cutter the same. The women are cookie cutter the same. The guys are fake and plastic. The women, every news desk is fake. It's acting. Reading a teleprompter. You have to go to journalistic school to get a degree to read a teleprompter. And you make more than me. And you check your brains at the door. You're not reporting the news. You're not reporting anything. You're regurgitating somebody's socialistic promoting crap. And I'm sorry, I find it interesting that this channel, this news outlet, has grabbed my attention more than Fox, more than any other. This woman is cute, and she's funny, and she reports the truth about liberals, lefties losing it, and it's humorous. I don't want to listen to Megyn Kelly. Women like Megyn Kelly are a dime a cargo ship, a Maersk cargo ship load. They breed like rabbits in this culture. Go to a mall. Go sit on a bench in a mall and just watch the women with their big handbags in their purse. Listen to their conversations. It's depressing. There's no substance to most of the women in our culture. And why do 50% of all marriages end up in the trash can? Well, if you ask the women, it's all our fault. I left my wife of 14 years. I left her. I came home one day. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. I'll have to get an attorney. I said, what do you have to get an attorney for? Why don't we just sign? We can't. We got a kid and we got money. I said, well, then go get an attorney. And she to this day tells everybody how terrible I was. Most of it was false. She said I was emotionally abusive. I said, how did I abuse you emotionally? You raised your voice. I looked at her, I said, did you tell your friends every time I tried to talk about any kind of problems in our marriage, I come at you calmly and you would go from 0 to 50 or 60, ramped up, yelling? And when I tried to talk to her, she'd hang up the phone or slam the door. This is after we're divorced. She'd put hate messages under my windshield wiper on my damn truck. I changed my number 3 times in 7 years of living in Colorado. I said, look, if you're going to abuse my phone, I'm going to shut you out. Now we got to deal with our kids and knock it off. Women are evil. Let's talk about that, wife. We were friends with a couple named Marilyn and Dale Paulson. They were different. Dale Paulson was from Moose Lake, Minnesota, and he might have been borderline special needs. I met him on the bus, and he went to the same church we all went to, a big Baptist church. And he'd always talk about Taekwondo. He was obsessed with it. Marilyn was Jewish. And they had asked me if I would help them move and drive the moving truck. I said, sure, I can do that. One day I left Lakewood and drove all the way to Aurora to take her to the grocery store to get groceries. Speed up to years later, divorced. I moved back to Denver in 2012. And I go back to Riverside Baptist Church and I see Dale and Marilyn. Dale says, hi, Mike. I said, hey, Dale, how are you? And I saw his wife. I said, hello, Marilyn. And she was driving one of those motorized carts. I thought she didn't hear me. I said, hey, Marilyn, it's Michael. Yeah, I know who you are, and I don't want to talk to you. You're an abuser. I said, excuse me? Dale said, yeah, your wife said you were abusive. And I said, have you guys talked to me? Or did you just listen to her? And this is what Dale said. He goes, well, you know, she's my wife and she talked to your wife and, you know, we don't want to rock the boat. I said, well, you're rocking the boat, making a false accusation against me. I said, what did she say was abuse? Did I beat her up? Did I smack her around? No, I did not. And white women today will throw the abuse word out because it gets its desired affect. No, that woman abused me and my authority. And she got to do what she wanted the whole time we were married. In fact, as a man, I was a pussy. She wanted to move somewhere. We went where she went. We did what she wanted, not me. And when things began to change, when what needed to happen years earlier, when her mother passed away, and I had told her, even before that, I said, we moved to Denver because of you. We did this because of you. Next move, I'm calling it. And we talked about moving to Maine. Their mom passed away. We found out we inherited $250,000 mattress money. Mother had it stored all over the house, under the couch, in Electrolux canister vacuum, in a brazier container. It was unbelievable. I said, why don't we take the house, use some of that money to remodel and put the rest in the bank And then that gets me out of Colorado, and I always wanted to go back to Minnesota, and we'll do that. Or we can take the money and move to Maine. I said, but we got a house. It's free and clear. Don't think about what it is. Think about what I can do with it. By the grace of God, he used me to turn that house into a beautiful place. We get up there. We go to church. And that was her town where she was born and raised. And I spent 2 months working there with my buddy without her or my son, trying to get the house ready. And I begin to see that, man, now I know I don't get along with her. This culture up here is obtuse. The Iron Range of Minnesota. And when we go to church, she would tell people, and I'm just standing there going, I can't believe I'm hearing this. She goes, yeah, I thought I'd take my family and carve out a life up here. I said, why are you telling everybody you thought you'd do that? I'm the one that told you we're leaving. She got angry at me. And after being there for 2 months, 3 months, she couldn't get a job. Then Blue Cross Blue Shield decided to put a call center there. One day she exploded at me. I said, wow, what is the problem? I let us move here because you were unhappy in Colorado. I said, I hated Colorado. And we spent 10 years there. You wanted us to go to Ohio. I didn't think it was a good idea. 6 months later, you're laying in bed in Akron crying, saying, can we please go to Duluth? I don't like this. And what did I do? I gave in to you. I didn't want to do it anyway. You wanted us to run a troubled respite house. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to work with troubled youth. Why do I want to work with troubled kids? And how ironic it was, the agency hired us because she had a degree in psychology from University of Minnesota Duluth. Kathleen, one of the people that worked at shelter care, was very rude. We called her Miss Piggy. She looked like Miss Piggy. Had all the pink makeup on, had a nose turned up. She had that same Miss Piggy hair. Even my ex called her Miss Piggy. She came and sat in the house. Our boss was Dean Cunningham. Dean was awesome. He said, I like your stance with these kids. He said, I'm getting nothing but positive feedback. I would see women from Summit County, attractive, pretty 20-something-year-old women that were caseworkers out in public. Hey, Mr. Nelson, how are you? I just want you to know I'm getting feedback from these kids. They like going to your house. I said, really? I said, that one lit it up the last time they were there. And these women told me, I know. They told me. You disciplined them and you kept structure, and they're not used to that, and they liked it. They didn't like her. They did not like my wife. My wife was fake. My wife was plastic. She did all that useless small talk. I had to several times say, young lady, you're not going to talk rude to my wife. And she came to me after we had a couple times where the kids were a no-show, and we had 3 days with no kids. Mike, these kids hate me. I said, do you know why? Because you're textbook smart. I said, I drove a school bus for years, and I've learned things about the kids. You don't learn this in a textbook. You don't learn this going to college. It bothers me. I had so many pretty women in Ohio be so nice to me, and I thought, my gosh, they're all prettier than my wife. They're all nicer than my wife. What have I done? And I've learned, I've lived long enough. I lived in Hong Kong. I chased a Filipino over there. It was a train wreck. And you know why? Because she had grown up watching Hollywood. She had grown up watching American TV. And she thought every one of us lived like they do in the movies. I said, Beth, no, we don't. Yes, there's a lot of Filipinos that go after money. No money, no honey. They live in poverty, but they only want a man who's got a big fat bank account. And I've met 20-year-old Filipino women married to 65-year-old balding pot-gutted men with white curly hair on the sides and a big old bowling alley laying down the top. And I'm like, this ain't love. He gets great sex. She gets access to a big bank account. Hello? Can you hear me now? There's a lot of that. Cat fishing. I met a guy in Hong Kong that was married to a young one. He was from Austria. I saw a lot of that when I was over there. There was a obese woman that did a Craigslist ad in Spokane, Washington. She was not attractive. Her arms at the armpit were that big around. And I was not attracted to her. I would read the posts, and sometimes I do live YouTube, or not live, but YouTube videos pre-recorded, reading the Craigslist ads. I pulled up my bus in an elementary school by the middle school one day, and a lady come out. Are you Mike Nelson? Are you Pacific? And I felt, uh-oh. Yes, I am. When she said Pacific, oh my gosh, I saw your video on YouTube about Craigslist ads, and I'm laughing my butt off. I thought, this guy is so funny. He's selling the truth. And I laughed. I said, I'm glad you like it. This woman in Craigslist was going on, I want a man, I want a man, I. But I will not date obese men. I find them repulsive. She had lots of pictures of herself. She looked like the Michelin woman. You know, the Michelin suit where there's these, like the sectionals up the arm. Yeah, she was big. And I wrote her and I said, I'm not interested in you, but I said, I just noticed looking at your photos, you won't date a man who's overweight. And have you ever analyzed yourself? Oh my gosh, it was like speed dial. Within seconds, my email blinged and all caps lock. F you. Oh man, she went on and on saying, I'm not obese. I said, did you look at your pictures? And then she went on saying, you're probably overweight and you're just mad because you can't have me. And I wrote back, I said, I lived in Hong Kong. I date Asian petite women. I just saw your ad and I saw the glaring hypocrisy and I had to respond. She came back with this. Oh, you date overseas because you can't get an American woman because you're probably a loser. And don't bother me again or I'll turn you into the police. Police? I didn't, that's why I responded to her ad. So I wrote back, I said, don't worry, I won't bother you again and please call the police. Would you like my address? I said, and by the way, I'll block you so I don't get to see a response. Ta-ta, B.I. I tell you what. I actually got a date in Spokane. Nice lady from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She was a little bit thicker, but she was good looking. She had sandy blonde hair. I wrote a post that went something like this. I said, wow, I get on Craigslist in Spokane and I'm just shocked at what I see. I said, all these people thinking they're all that on a stick. I said, where the locals' biggest objective here is to beat somebody to the next red light or to cruise up and down Sprague and think that they're something when they're not. And I was blasting the culture and the mentality of the local yokels. I got a response from the lady in Coeur d'Alene. She goes, oh my gosh, I am rolling on the floor after reading your post. Here's a picture of me. Can I have a picture of you? And I sent it. I said, you're cute. She goes, you're handsome. And we interacted back and forth. I said, let's go to lunch. Let's go to Red Lobster. I haven't been there in a while. I showed up and my truck was still beautiful. My wine red, not fire engine red, but a deep crimson, nice color 95 Ford. And she pulled up in her Charger, same color. She gets out of her car. She goes, nice truck. I said, nice car. She goes, nice color. I said, I was just going to say the same thing. I took her by the hand and we walked in the restaurant. I said, you are comfortable the minute you responded to my post. She goes, I like your sarcasm. I like the way you nailed it. She goes, this town is full of losers. And she said, I've got to meet this guy. So I didn't put a post out there trying to seek. I was blasting the Craigslist ads. Man, these people think they're all out on a stick. Or a bag of chips. We had a friendly time of romp, and sadly, it didn't work out. And it didn't work out because she invited me over. Her teen daughter went to do something with her friend and spend the night. And what I didn't know is she and I were making hay in her house. And we got done. And when she went to see me to the door, because I don't spend the nightsy. All of a sudden, I noticed her face changed. She stood at the door with her bathrobe pulled around her, and she goes, Mike, I'll message you tomorrow. You be safe going home. I said, okay, bye. The next morning, she goes, I'm so sorry, Mike. She said, when I went to walk in the door, I saw my daughter's book bag. She got into the house. She said, she got angry at me and said, Mom, are you an HO? I heard you and him in the bedroom, and I said, oh boy. I said, do you think you could tell her that, hey, we're dating and I'm sorry that you had to? Mike, she looks down on me and I can't live with that. And, she was not a 10. But I had fun with her. We went to lunch several times. We went joyriding. I already told you all the story about us trying to be naughty in the truck at a bike trail, thinking we were alone, and all these vehicles pulled up, and I didn't have tinted windows, and I'm naked on her in the truck, and wow, these guys are getting their bikes out and having a conversation for 45 minutes, and I've got my sweat jacket thrown over me, and we're laying there. I'm like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. They finally jetted off on their bikes, and we put our clothes on and left. Jeez. Mike, that's not very Christ-like. No, it wasn't. I've sowed my oats. And I've learned something through all of this. You can't have what you want. It's like the carrot on the stick. If I want to date a pretty woman, I have to shell out a couple $1,000, take a flight overseas, and that's a fact. And before some of you Western women think, oh, well, they're all loosey-goosey over there, that's not the case. The culture over there is different. When a woman hits her 20s in the Philippines, she's not married by 25. She's done. Done. They are that way. Japan. I was friends with Yuki in a chat room. She was an OL, an office lady, and the same thing goes on in Hong Kong. They hire the young ladies fresh out of college to be office ladies. Once they hit 25, they jettison them. It's a very sexist culture. And the men are in charge in Southeast Asia. In America, the women reign supreme. They can have 3,000 guys lined up at their door begging to get with them. Me? You will not have 3,000 good-looking women lining up at my door. You won't have one. And if she's halfway decent looking and she's interested in me, it's because she wants a life preserver or wants me to pay her bills. That's it. Women, you can say what you want. I'm just telling you the truth. The mental masturbation that we men go through to talk to a woman, to get to know a woman, to text, to talk, to email, to text, to talk, to email, before you can get a date is... I went all the way overseas to meet a woman. And I remember sitting at West Call Center one evening in our training, and somebody in the room, I overheard him say, yeah, I've been emailing a local woman here for 2 months, and we're finally going to go for coffee. And I looked at him, I said, 2 months? I said, man, I met somebody online in Hong Kong, and I went over there and met her. Everybody in that training room turned around and said, are you freaking serious? I said, I'll bring pictures tomorrow. And everybody was just in awe. Man, that took guts. I said, why are you going to get on the internet for 2 months on a local woman that's so scaredy cat to go meet publicly for coffee? I said, I don't want to date a woman like that. Life is a risk. Tell somebody where you're going. Meet at a public place in your own vehicle. I mean, how hard is that? There was one woman that looked at the pictures. One of the trainees in my class. She said, can I be honest with you? I said, sure. She said, I'm looking at these pictures. You look so happy. She goes, have you looked at her body language? I said, I have. She goes, she's not into you. I said, I know. I said, when I was there, I had a question mark the whole time. Be careful, Michael. Some of these people just want a visa to get to the U.S. And sometimes our culture of women are smarter than what's overseas. That's a fact. But there's so much attitude. There's so much making us feel like we're no good and we're not worthy. Now that bothers me. Like, what gave you the right to think that I'm not worthy of a date with you? How did you get to a point where you think you are all that in a bag of chips? How did you get there? And in America today, we're not dealing with this lady. We're not dealing with this one. This is not our choices today. Those don't exist anymore. That's a bygone era. Women are not like that anymore. They haven't been for decades now. They're this. They're one of two or three extremes. They're this, or that. Can I say something? Can I say something deep? Yeah. That'll give you cooties. Cooties. If she took all her clothes off, I would not get aroused. That's gross. Why does she look like this? Why does she look like this right here? They look very similar. She's a woman. But look at the woman he's with. Fake dyed hair. Eyebrows don't match. She's not color coordinated there. You know she's all about money because he's rolling in it. Have you seen their house? Their house has absolutely no personality. You come in the front entrance and it's got this rolling staircase going up. It's a big empty shell of a house. Showy. No warmth. My house has personality. I don't care what anybody says. I like my place. I don't care what any woman or anybody thinks of it. If they want to talk about it, let them. My place embodies a major difference between me and the rest of society. You know, it's got personality. You look at most of these homes that women like I showed you, there's no passion. There's no antiques. There's no character. There's nothing there. They got a dining room table with sofa, white chairs. Why? You're eating food. And they're made of sofa material. I know I'm different. People call Rachel Maddow Rachel Mad Cow. I can see why. And what's left for us? What's left for us? I always say I was born in the wrong era. The last ever voyage of a historic ship. Seemed like when I was born into the world, history was starting to come to an end. The ocean liners literally came to an end within a year of my coming into the world. Why am I attracted to an era that doesn't even exist anymore? Because their ships were so beautiful. You were forced to get to know people on a ship. 5 to 7 days at sea. You might as well start talking to somebody. The only deep community I have is through this internet. Our culture is transitory. People come into your life for a season and they're out. And it's caused psychological ramifications. That's what the dating landscape looks like today in America. Right there. It's a house on a Georgia highway. Decrepit, 1920s. The integrity of her is gone. Cool picture. I prefer this. I'm not into California anymore, but somebody paid me good money and said, Michael, we're going to allow you to live on the Queen Mary. Yes, it's a tourist site, but you'll have your own stateroom and cabin and work and bathroom, and I'd do it. I'd love to live on that thing for a while. That'd just be awesome. 2 o'clock in the morning, I could do videos on the deck and walking through the ship. Wouldn't that be for cool? And even me, I'm affected by the culture. I like things I shouldn't like. I had one of these last year. I miss it. I wish that my life could be like that, sailing victoriously with majesty and beauty. I wish my life could be an orchestra with all the beautiful sounds and strains of violins and brass and woodwinds. But I fear that I'm just like many Americans, just trying to survive and exist. The sun has set, or should I say is setting, on Michael Nelson. I'm 60. Will I make it to 70? Will I make it to 65? Does love exist anymore? I ask those questions all the time. That stupid thing between my legs is still not dead yet. And no, that's not a real toy. Mob Rules generated that on AI. I thought that was funny. When I got my hair cut. Even had the top right and my chain necklace with the key. I didn't market my channel. My channel has allowed me to meet good people. They bought a chest of drawers from me, and we became friends. But he's pulled back because he felt that he was being too much into this, and I understand that. We all do that. We all want to hold on to something. And at the end of the day, when I turn off the light in my bedroom, channel and people I talk to online aside, the darkness falls. And there's nobody here, just me. The Bible says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And I know that he's with me, because if he wasn't, this stuff would drive me up a wall. I sleep because he has me. But I struggle. That sex drive just doesn't seem to go away. And I've asked myself, is there any one woman that could curb it? The answer is absolutely not. When you're in love with a beautiful woman. When I was in Hong Kong, I got to experience something I never experienced here. All these pretty ladies vying for my attention. And there's always one more that walks by. Wow, I wonder. The eye never has enough of seeing, the ear never enough of hearing. We're a bottomless pit when it comes to that. I had a girlfriend years ago who came up with the perfect scenario for, sinful desire. She said, Mike, I think it'd be awesome if we were married and we had a maid and she was part of our life. I said, oh, that would be scintillating, wouldn't it? Why is it that we're like that? Well, because marriage is hard. Staying with the same person day in and day out is tough. That I've even said it. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more time you spend with somebody, the more you start to dislike them. Not these guys, but I mean intimate. And why did God wire us to be noticing of another woman? And then somebody else comes with a skimpy top and no bra. I'm done. The Bible says if a man even looks at a woman with lust, he's already committed adultery. You didn't have to touch yourself. You didn't even have to go with her. You've already committed adultery. Bam. I don't know a man that's not guilty of that. And a lot of women too. Because women look at men and women with lust these days. That's how I want to see my life. But often, my life is more like this. Trying to survive one disaster and one problem after another. Jeez. Sex is the capper. You want release. It does a body good. The release of endorphins and the natural, I don't know if I'm using the right word, dopamine release in the brain is amazing. People use substances to get something, drinking and smoking and drugs and mushrooms and pot. I don't even do all that. I have no interest. And I desire that which I cannot have. And people say what they say about me. And at the end of the day, I still want to believe in this flag and in this culture. And I still miss this. It's funny. We all have a form of neurosis, don't we? There's a woman who came into the chat last night. She made some rude comment on one of my videos. She was a moderator. She made a comment about, well, Mike, whenever he figures out what it's like to portray himself as a Christian when he's confused about it. Confused? Why? Because I wear feminine clothing sometimes? I'm not confused. And she had done some things and said some things in chat that I had to confront. And she disappears for a while and gets butthurt, and then she comes back in expecting everybody to give her a big old embrace, and it's not happening. And I didn't block her. I took the wrench away. And even that teaches me something. People want community, even if it's only vicariously through the internet. I hate AI. I don't like AI. I'll never like AI. You can tell AI, you can see it is fake. It's crazy. My own self, what I've done to try to find love. That's how I ended up in that photo in Miagao in the Philippines. The mother, the woman I went to visit, that's her water supply right there, right outside her house. It's sad. I could go to Manila. I could ride the jeepneys. I promise you, I don't think I'd be there a week. I was with Gloria in 2018. Had my arm over the back of the jeepney bench that we were seated on around Gloria. And another young lady sat next to Gloria, and she not only put her arm, but her hand grabbed gently and held my arm. And I didn't jerk away. I looked at Gloria. Gloria looked at me and she smiled. We went to get off. I said, Gloria, what was that all about? She wanted to touch you. I said, why? She doesn't even know me. A lot of people here want love. She said, but you know, even though I'm Filipina, Michael, they'll steal you right out from under me if they could. I said, really? She goes, oh, they don't care. If she thought she could take you right then and there, she would. I said, wow, they don't do that in America. I can't even get a date with a petite, pretty woman over there. Can't even do it. I had women hitting on me in front of her. I went to San Juan Market and the security guard was actually my height. She was beautiful too. She patted me down when I left the store. They only pat you down when you go in for weapons. She patted me down and I told Gloria and she go, yeah, she just wanted to touch you. I said, my gosh. Oh, how long you stay in the Philippines? You like here? Oh, she's making eyes at me. Over here, you have to jump through more requirements to get a date than entrance requirements into an Ivy League school. Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Cambridge. That's a fact. And I said, I don't jump no more. I know my worth, and I know that I could go to India. I could go to Sri Lanka. I could probably go to South America. I could probably go to Poland and get a date with a beautiful woman without any effort on my part, just being who I am. And that does something to the psyche. Do you women realize the psychological ramifications of that? Rather, let me ask you this: do you care? You only care about what affects you, not us. They got a whole month devoted to breast cancer. Mother's Day is a bigger deal than Father's Day. In fact, some women say, well, I'm the mother and the dad. You're not the dad. Nice try. Men are kicked to the curb in this culture. The sitcoms and the media's put us down. And the women that are doing that, they look like this. That's not a pretty lady. When I look at her, she looks brainwashed. She looks programmed. How about this? You like this one? You want to go out with that? A lot of women like that look better clothed than they do naked. Just remember that, boys. All that lipstick and Bondo and all that up to the neck clothing, there's a reason they're doing that. I have a friend in Ohio who has dated Afghani women. You wouldn't know it because of all the clothing that they wear, but they are stunning. Some of those Middle Eastern women, Lebanese women, and Iranian women are gorgeous. They don't do all that makeup and stuff. I grew up in a culture. I talked openly about pedestalization of people. Our culture has pedestalized Caucasian Western women to the top of the list. And it's gone to their head. And not only has it gone to their head, but they're stunted in their emotional growth. Most women that are my age have the mentality of middle school girl. The ones that think they're all that on a stick. Let me differentiate. There are real women. There's genuine women. And I know that now because the ones that come to my channel are here because they're hearing genuine, honest truth. And that restores my faith that there's still some decent women in this culture. But by and large, no. I wouldn't date that. That's Megyn Kelly, folks. This is one of the viewers came on my channel one day and left comments. I said, "Is that your silhouette?" She goes, "It is." I said, "That is so pretty." She goes, "Thank you." She took a picture of herself with her shadow casting on the wall. I said, "That is really cool. Feminine. Pretty." And people wonder why I do stuff like this. There is a neurosis that goes on, even with me. Sometimes I entertain my own self. Sometimes I push the envelope just to see what's what. Would you date that? That's what most women think they are today. This is way prettier than Whoopi Goldberg. Dionne Warwick was pretty back in the day. Don't make me over. And that's what women have done to themselves. They make themselves over. And it gets worse every time they do. What happened to the beautiful black ladies of the 60s and 70s? What happened to the white women like Jackie back in the day? What happened to them? Why do they feel the need to destroy their looks and destroy their hearts and then have the audacity to say that I and you, men, are not worthy of them? That's like a waste management dumpster was able to talk and tell me, "Get your tongue off the bottom of my dumpster. That's gross. I don't want your tongue touching my dumpster." That's what we're dealing with today. You like that? That's accurate. These women that think they're all that have zero to offer. And they put themselves out there like they're some stock market commodity. No, they're a liability. They're an insurance risk. You don't get any return on that. stress, drama, accusations. Thank you for listening. Those same women will get on my channel and say, "What is this? Oh my gosh, there's something wrong with you." There's never anything wrong with women, right? That's the general feeling you get. Does it matter that I dress like this? You stuck up, conceited women that aren't going to give me the time of day anyway. Does it matter? What difference does it make what I do in my house? Zero. I'm cuter than most of these manufactured fake dyed blonde hair, lipstick, and Bondo coated women. At least I'm naturally attractive. I didn't manufacture it at all. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I don't charge for memberships. I did not monetize my account. If you want to donate, hashtag Pacific Ocean Asia 77. Anything you do is appreciated, even if you don't give. Showing up and enjoying the show, I appreciate that. Taking the time to listen to this over all the YouTube artists, that validates me. And that means something. So thank you. Have a good day. Be safe. Always be safe.